From Washington, the McLaughlin Group, the American original. For over 2 decades, the sharpest minds, best sources, hardest talk. The McLaughlin Group is brought to you in part by CIT, Capital Redefined. And by SAP, software for great companies, not just great big companies. Learn more at sap.com/midsize. And by the people of America's oil and natural gas industry. Learn more at energytomorrow.org.
Issue 1, nothing wrong.
If you want to know what character is, walk around your campus and see signs with your photo all over it and wanted signs, and have people in the media relating you to Hitler and other terrible people from history when you've done nothing wrong.
3 Duke University lacrosse players were cleared of all charges this week relating to the alleged kidnapping and alleged raping of a stripper at a 2006 party. After 13 months of withering media scrutiny, Roy Cooper, the North Carolina Attorney General, not only dropped the charges, but went out of his way to exonerate the players.
We believe these 3 individuals are innocent of these charges.
The young men reacted to their vindication in a press conference later in the day.
This dark cloud of injustice that's hung above our heads has finally cleared.
Family and friends is what matters most. I hope to use my experience to prevent this from ever happening again to anyone.
It's been 395 days since this nightmare began, and finally today it's come to a closure.
Question, who bears responsibility for the ordeal these college students went through? Pat Buchanan.
First and foremost, Mr. Nifong, the district attorney, who went after them and prosecuted them when mounting evidence showed that the charge was not only false, but absurd. But secondarily, these young men were really tried and convicted and lynched in a narrow court of public opinion down there in Raleigh, on their campus, by some professors, by some racial hustlers and others, and on cable TV, John, by a rush to judgment that they were guilty of a horrible crime when it turned out to be another Tawana Brawley situation.
Well, your description is accurate, but your answer to my question is erroneous. The person who bears most responsibility is the accuser. Therefore, should the accuser be faced with charges?
Absolutely not. Her story did not hold up, but lots of people who bring lawsuits don't succeed in court, and I don't think most people get countersued as a matter of punishment for bringing a lawsuit. She didn't have a strong enough case, obviously, but I think the fault with that lies with the prosecutor, an overly zealous prosecutor, and a gullible media that basically bought a narrative of rich, privileged lacrosse players taking advantage of a woman who has to strip to earn a living. And that was the narrative that was played out, and it was wrong.
If she knowingly filed false charges, should she not face prosecution?
Yeah, it is a crime. And my understanding, based on what the North Carolina Attorney General suggested, didn't quite say, was that she was probably a psychotic and thought that she was telling the truth, even though objectively it was a complete lie. And so if you have some poor psychotic person, prosecutorial discretion might suggest that you don't go after the person, maybe get them mental help. But on the broader issue, of course, everyone's. I'm a former prosecutor, and what Nifong did, among the many things that he did horribly, he refused either to interview the accuser or the accused, because he had a primary to get to, and he wanted to get the indictment and win the election on a racial basis without even willing to accept the presentation.
Did he also not want to keep the DNA evidence out?
Oh yeah, that too, and he misrepresented to court. He did a lot of things. But to understand how appalling it is, he would neither interview the accuser nor the accused. Now routinely you find out, what is the accused? Do they have an alibi? He wouldn't listen to it before the indictment. It's really outrageous.
You think the press performed well?
Hardly. This was a media riot from the beginning. Just countless examples of it. Jon Stewart had fun with Nancy Grace the other night, and clips from her, who was with the prosecution all the way. And this is the guy. And I'm not going to say I'm not guilty, as well as a lot of other people, because it seemed to fit this narrative so well of this poor, abused, and like Tony says, I don't know if she was psychotic, but she apparently has had emotional problems and may have been under some other influence that night. But her case began to break down, and yet Nifong just kept pressing on until the evidence just piece by piece just dried up. So I hope we learn a lesson here about.
You think Nifong should be disbarred?
Yes.
Well, I don't personally have enough knowledge to say disbarment,
Absolutely.
but he certainly looks
You
bad
think
here.
He ought to be investigated, John, and if he's done this, look, you cannot go into the grand jury, and these kids are right. They say the grand jury, they would indict a ham sandwich. But this case was breaking down 24 hours after it was brought, and it continued to collapse, and he pursued this thing. He ought to be disbarred, and he ought to be sent to prison if he's guilty of prosecutorial misconduct.
Let me add, some other people here who are not quite as guilty, but
where?
In this case, and it's the deputy DAs in that office who must have known. Now, it was their boss, the DA, Nifong, so maybe they didn't have, but they could see what evidence was not being collected and what was happening, and they sure kept quiet.
Nifong is currently under investigation on numerous ethics charges. He's going to be judged by his peers, and he is likely to be disbarred. I don't think he's going to end up spending time in jail.
Well, that's what my exit question is going to be. I also want to point out that the lawyers for these students did a fantastic job in keeping Nifong in check and bleeding in the state district attorney.
John, what is incredible is how long it took. I can understand how people would say this is a horrible thing these kids did, and you go after it, but when the thing starts crumbling, why you don't then back off and say, hold on, folks, we might have had a 48-hour rush to judgment.
Exit question, will Nifong spend time in jail? I ask you, Pat Buchanan.
My guess is no, but I think he's in real danger of disbarment.
What do you think, Eleanor?
That's what I just said, yes.
I'm not aware of any crime that he's committed. If he's committed a crime, I hope he goes to jail, but I think that he's protected in prosecutorial discretion, which is very broad in most states.
I think you have a unanimous jury here, John. I'd say disbarment, but jail time unlikely.
Oh, I think we got a criminal action here. I think we have a criminal action. Extreme prosecutorial abuse. When we come back, Imus imbroglio.
SAP software has made running my mid-sized business much easier. Actually, I have time for lunch. It's all very glamorous.
SAP has solutions for mid-sized companies? I'm gonna need some time to come to terms with this whole thing. Okay, I'm good.
I lost my job and my health insurance. The first thought was, how am I going to get my medication I need? I was in a lot of trouble.
If you're uninsured and struggling, America's pharmaceutical companies want to help. Call 1-888-4PPA now to see if you may qualify.
PPA saves me $1,300 a month.
We've been to nearly 1,000 cities in all 50 states, helping more than 3 million people in need.
Without my wife and PPA, I don't know if I could have been here today.
The Partnership for Prescription Assistance, on the road to helping you.
It fuels our lives and creates the products we depend on. It powers our workforce. It brings us home and gives us warmth. It lets us travel the earth and reach for the sky. Vital for life, too precious to waste. Oil and natural gas. Together, let's use it wisely. Learn more at energytomorrow.org.
Issue 2, Imus imbroglio.
I did a bad thing, but I'm a good person.
For the past week, Talk show host Don Imus has been dealing with the aftermath of his defamatory comments about the Rutgers basketball team. Imus has repeatedly apologized for the sexist and racist phrases he used on air to refer to African American women. After initially suspending him for 2 weeks, both CBS and MSNBC ultimately decided to remove Imus in the Morning from their lineup.
Question, what's the fallout from the Imus affair? I ask you, Clarence.
Well, there's a couple of job openings right now, John, if you're thinking about getting into talk radio. But I think the big fallout from this is probably going to be to boost the YouTube generation, because Imus has been making these kind of remarks for some 30 years, but all of a sudden now, well, the clip from MSNBC got picked up
and moved around.
This nappy-headed hose clip, so people could see it, and it just churned up. In this era, these controversies don't go away. Anger spreads farther, faster, and hotter than ever before. So by Monday, he was pleading for his career.
Is there a lesson there for all of us?
Well, watch what you say on camera, John. You know that by now.
Look, you make a big point about a lesson, because the lasting effect is a chilling effect on everybody who is vigorously exercising free speech. This was a lynching.
You feel chill, Tony.
Let me tell you, they're already listing on MSNBC on one show. They're going to go after Rush. They're going to go after other people. This was an agenda-driven event, and the networks were cowards. They had made a judgment for years that this was programming worth presenting. They get a week of flash, a few.
Right.
Think about Edward. Think about Edward. Think about Edward R. Murrow and how CBS protected him when the sponsors were threatened back in the 50s.
Imus is no Edward R. Murrow. This was the market. This was the marketplace speaking, and this was America telling a man who uttered an utterly despicable comment that America now looks more like Clarence and me than it does like the white men who ruled forever.
The vindictiveness we hear right here. The vindictiveness we hear. Look, this guy, you hold it, Eleanor. Let me say this. Imus said a stupid thing, he and Bernie did. 2 words for about 3-4 seconds in the morning. They apologized and apologized and apologized and asked for forgiveness. And 2 Christian ministers, Sharpton and Jackson, acted like lynch mob leaders. This was an example of real hate, John, real hate in America. But the hate was not from Imus. It was directed at him. There was no forgiveness. It was unchristian. It was unchristian and un-American.
If this was the first time, forgiveness would be appropriate. Yeah, this would be appropriate if this was the first time, but it wasn't the first time.
Did he deserve to be lynched for that?
He was fired back in the 70s and went back to Cleveland and worked his way back up the food chain.
Okay, he makes a mistake.
Excuse me, he was not lynched. He was a victim of the modern America, where if the advertisers don't think you're selling and you're not marketable, they pull the advertising. It happens every day to lots of people.
Let me tell you something.
He lost his market value, and appropriately
so. It's not only people who some people don't like who's going to get hit by this. Someone like Bill Maher, who says that Christians are mentally ill. If evangelical Christians decide to go after the sponsors, or any of us can say something and you get targeted, you have no protection. It was very dangerous.
Hold on. Remember 9/11, Bill Maher already lost his program for what he said on the air.
I'm not just picking on Bill Maher.
This is a good example. Nothing new.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, Imus's pledge to Clarence. This is what he said to you in 1900 and what?
No, 2000.
2000. In the year 2000, 7 years ago, you were on Imus, and he said this to you: I will cease all simian references to black athletes and avoid all references to non-criminal blacks as thugs, pimps, muggers, and Colt 45 drinkers. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And
there was more.
There was more?
There was more, but he swore off of it, backpedaling. But
did he draw up that language, or did you?
No. There was a controversy going on back in 2000, and Pat, I forgave him, Pat. That's what it's all about. I said I wouldn't appear on the show again.
African American community.
Answer the question. Wait a minute. Let him answer the question.
I said I wouldn't appear on the show again until we cleared the air on that controversy.
All right, let me tell you something. This term nappy-headed hose, comes out of the ghetto. It's slang, it's ugly stuff, it's terrible to women. It is constant on African-American radio. Imus was lynched because he was a white male who said it.
Because he
That's
applied
why.
those words to the Rutgers women's basketball team.
They accepted.
That was a cheap shot. It was
they
a
didn't
cheap
ask
shot,
for his
and
head.
the country knew it. That's why the country was
I
outraged.
just want to say one thing.
Point.
He's been a bully going after people for years, women, gays, blacks, people with disabilities. He picked the wrong target this time. These young women are an extraordinary,
He's done more good for
positive
people than anybody
example
on
of
radio.
America.
More good than anybody.
Look, he's not a bully. He takes everybody on. He called
He's a
Cheney.
bully of everybody.
He called Cheney a war criminal. But in fact, he's one of the best interviewers on TV.
Okay, the first 08 presidential contender to opine publicly on Imus's uproar is Barack Obama. This is what he said. Obviously, what this reveals is that we still have a host of racial stereotypes that are out there and bandying them about and thinking that there aren't going to be any consequences to it. But I also think there's a broader problem of a coarsening of the culture. Insults, humor that degrades women, humor that is based in racism and racial stereotypes isn't fun. We all have First Amendment rights, and I am a constitutional lawyer and strongly believe in free speech. But as a culture, we really have to do some soul searching to think about what kind of toxic information we are feeding our kids.
Why didn't he go? Why did he go on Imus's show then?
He went on once and he said he wouldn't
went
go
on the show.
again.
He didn't know what it was. Come on, what a phony!
More than that.
I didn't know what it was.
Wait. More than that, Pat. It took him. He
was peddling a book, Pat, like you.
Let me tell you.
I like Imus.
Let me tell you something. Obama spent several days being indifferent about it until Al Sharpton.
He was the first to speak.
Until Al Sharpton started questioning whether he was going to lose black votes in the Democratic primary, and then Obama, the hero, comes out with these heroic statements.
There is nothing that Obama said that anybody on this set, I think, would disagree with. He said he struck exactly the right note.
Do you think
But
he's
where
going
did
to
the
put a
term
crimp
come
in
from, Eleanor? The term is a terrible term.
Different.
Imus didn't invent it.
Excuse me.
He wasn't fired for saying ho.
Have you attacked people? Have you attacked black artists?
Calm down. Down, boy. Down, boy.
Finish.
It is different when members of a particular community denigrate themselves. It is also different if they do it in markets that are not the public airways and are not morning drive time radio and television.
What do we
it's
think?
where Obama said it that created the uproar.
Hey, Pat, what do you think?
The First Amendment is based on
It's where Imus said it that created.
What do you think of the mugs, the mugs, the
This isn't
T-shirts?
free speech.
Right,
This is
the
an
mugs, the
abuse of the
T-shirts?
public
The
airways
mugs,
and
the
the marketplace.
T-shirts, the Imus dolls that have now come in.
Well, you know what, John? What it shows is, look, let's suppose they use the N-word. Nobody would put that on anything. But now this term was used 1,000,000 times on cable TV. They got dolls and everything. As I say, it was stupid. It is slanderous.
They're putting
but the guys were not malicious in doing it. They were just doing their shtick.
You can find a T-shirt with a face of Al Sharpton.
Why is it not malicious when you take that sort of shot against these wonderful women? Why is that not malicious?
Nappy-headed
It's not funny.
Al Sharpton's picture on a T-shirt.
Right.
What do you make of that?
Well, you know, like I say, it's context. You see, Imus wasn't penalized for saying those words. He's penalized for where and how he said it, applying them to that women's basketball team. Beyond the pale.
You think firing him has caused this marketing surge? In other words, it expands the story. And that Imus is probably not going to go away as fast as people think.
Imus isn't going to go away. You know, this is what happens in the shock jock business. Like when Imus got fired in New York back in the 70s, he went back to Cleveland, worked his way back up the food chain. Now he may go to satellite radio. He may go to another station.
Do you think Obama sounded a little bit too preachy in that?
Obama never sounds preachy, it seems. So far, he hasn't lost any points by saying what people believe.
Because thou art virtuous, there shall be no
more cakes and ale.
No more what?
Cakes and ale.
Cakes and ale.
Malvolio.
Does it sound a little bit like that?
Well, maybe the way you read it.
Is he going to make this part of his presidential appeal the way Dole tried to do with Hollywood in what year? 97?
96.
Let me go to the Raptors.
Is that what he's going to do? Are we seeing now?
He'll get away from this as fast as he can because what he does not want to do is get in where he is not. Do not get into the race cul-de-sac. He's much broader and bigger than that, and he ought to stay out of it. I understand why he tried to stay out of it.
If you were running for president again, would you go near this issue?
It's gender and race.
I would defend Imus because I went on his show.
Has anyone defended Imus who's running for president?
Well, yes, they have. Giuliani has. John McCain has.
Nobody has defended what he said. Nobody has defended what he said.
Let me go.
Is this this flap dominantly good or dominantly bad for Republicans?
It's going to turn. It's going to turn.
I don't think it makes a difference. Let me go back to the.
Is it dominantly good or dominantly bad for the Republic?
It's bad for anybody who likes to exercise free speech.
No.
But let me go back. Let me go back to the rap. Let me go back. Let me get a thought in for a second. The rap business. You say give them a pass because it's black on black, but the fact is that the horrible things said on rap who are listened to both by black kids and by white suburban boys is doing more damage to attitude
I did not say give them a pass, but you can't go around firing everybody unless the advertisers pull out of those shows too. And that would be a healthy development if it happened.
If a national plebiscite were held today,
right,
would it say Imus should go or Imus should stay?
I think a couple of days ago it would have said maybe he should go, but I think there's a tremendous backlash. The feeling that the guy asked for forgiveness and they hung him.
And he's good at what he does?
He's great at what he does.
And
he's
he can get anybody to talk. Has he contributed to the public policy knowledge?
He's not only contributed to the public policy, his show is the best morning show on the air.
Excuse me, the only backlash you'll get is from the angry white male, and Imus did good interviewers, but he did not. If the
plebiscite were held, which way would it go?
It'd be with Imus today.
He's gone, but he will be back probably in a different venue.
The American people say, by the majority, keep him off the air.
30% said no punishment whatsoever.
I don't have a clue.
Who does? Who does? What's your instinct?
This is the national conversation.
Is your instinct that he's a bigot? Yes or no?
No, he's definitely not a bigot. My instinct, if you want to know, is that any time you get an issue in which one race is attacked and another race is attacked, you probably get polarization.
Why didn't he apologize the right way and ask for forgiveness? Or did he?
He did. And he got forgiveness from the basketball team as well. But, the real issue isn't a plebiscite, it's ratings and sponsors. Right. If Howard Stern can stay in business, so can Don Imus. That's a fact. And just because there's a backlash,
but not on MSNBC, Clarence. Not on a big network like MSNBC.
No, but he'll make money, even if he has to work his way back up. And he's such a nice guy, and I agree with you that he is, that he can work his way back up.
The advertisers really do conduct their own mental plebiscite.
Of course, it's a business.
Now, which way, if you were an advertiser, would you go? Or do you think you would go a week from now? Do you think you would go on the side of doing
something like that? I wouldn't advertise on a show like that, but a lot of people will.
John, corporations run as a matter of course. They got vast audiences. They cut their losses immediately.
You mean that they run on the basis of exclusively self-interest?
Yes, I do, John.
And that's the way you like it?
They don't have any heart, John. Zero.
Is this the end of an icon, yes or no? Pat Buchanan.
He's going to have a tough time coming back. I hope he does.
He's not going to have presidential candidates and pundits elbowing to get on whatever. No? It's the end of him in his current configuration. But
Suppose he becomes self-censoring as he will he lose his Imus quality?
Yeah, if he comes back, and I hope he does with a big audience, he's got to do basically the same show. He can't just be a lovely fellow. He's got to be the kind of guy he's been for 30 years.
What do you
think? Well, he will come back.
He won't come back.
I don't know.
Probably you don't know. Probably no. Okay.
Right. As my mama would say, if he be living, he'll be back. because like Pat said, there is a backlash out there among folks who like Imus, and he's going to generate that, and he'll be able to sell sponsors, and he'll be able to sell books.
Even on XM, he would have to be self-censoring, and that would vitiate the Imus quality that was so direct and good in legitimate questioning. Follow me? So therefore, I think that the icon will probably walk into the sunset.
You could be a cervic without picking on people who aren't your size.
Green Zone Red.
The Green Zone, Baghdad's impenetrable fortress. Well, the fortress was penetrated this week. The Green Zone's 4 square miles are the putative safe haven from the violence and bloodletting of Iraq's capital, allowing diplomats, politicians, and other professionals to do their business, along with thousands of Iraqi civilians who travel in and out and live there. But the Green Zone's 12-foot-high blast-proof walls, multiple checkpoints, and razor wire were no match to the deadly suicide blast in the cafeteria of, get this, Iraq Parliament. This horror dealt a blow to the 2-month-old Bush surge. The security plan for Baghdad was some 45,000 U.S. troops in the city. The blast occurred in the most hardened security site in Baghdad, the Parliament, inside the Green Zones. Our commander-in-chief was quick to assign culpability.
Our message to the Iraqi government is we stand with you as you take the steps necessary to not only reconcile politically, but also put a security force in place that is able to deal, with these kind of people.
Responsibility for the attack was claimed by an al-Qaeda group.
Is the aura of invincibility of Americans gone?
We never had an aura of invincibility.
In Iraq.
Right. This was an inside job, and if they can't protect themselves in a heavily fortified green zone,
there was
it's
no
done.
invincibility, but it shows that they're not doing well in training the Iraqi troops.
Like Ted, it's a setback in public image, even while they're making progress on the ground.
Well stated, Clarence. We'll be right back with predictions.
The McLaughlin Group is brought to you in part by Grant Thornton, dedicated to serving clients worldwide with a singular passion for the business of accounting. And by Pharma, new medicines, new hope.
Any global accounting organization needs to keep a sharp eye on the financial environment. Listen carefully to your needs and goals, and think long and hard about your business. But what distinguishes the accountants at Grant Thornton is their passion for the business of accounting. Grant Thornton, a passion for the business of accounting.
Today, for the first time ever, 90% of seniors have comprehensive prescription drug coverage. Millions of older and disabled Americans with peace of mind, thanks to Medicare's new prescription benefit. That's why leading newspapers say rushing to change Medicare would be a mistake. USA Today tells Congress put on the brakes. The Journal warns it's the last thing patients need. The Post says change is the wrong prescription. Medicare's prescription drug benefit. It's working for seniors.
Paul Wolfowitz, president of the World Bank, will step down. Yes or no?
History.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
5 yeses. Bye-bye.